Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday, and this is the last day of January, so we're going to wrap up another month. Believe it or not, we're already into the second month of the new year. I don't know where the time goes, but it sure is going by fast. But anyway, uh, I thought I'd start out by showing you a little look at the daily chart. If we back out here, you can see we've been trending up into this, but we've been almost sideways here for a few weeks, and then we finally dropped down, and we actually was a double bottom here already, and we bounced there again. But notice we were in this little congestion area, and I definitely call that congestion for a daily chart. There's this big bar, and then everything else is pretty much inside of that. There, we did break out a little bit there temporarily, but you can clearly see the uh, resistance was here and the support was down here. I'd really call it right around where the close is there. Um, that's how I would normally draw it on the 2000 tick chart, but I'm going to leave it here because that's where the previous support is, where we're getting the most touches, including the closes, is right along this price level here. So there's a couple of things to look for. First of all, you do have a trend channel line working down here. That's the first close outside of it. So you would expect prices to maybe try to retest that low, but also you have this pink trading range that I just talked about, and that's the first break out of it. So you would expect prices to at least try to retest what was resistance and see it act as support if prices are going to go higher. So there's a couple of different ways to look at this. Um, Sometimes though, when you get way overdone like this, we might just rally and rocket on out of here off of this support. So at this point, I'd say don't do anything. I don't see any reason to look to be getting long right now, but I'd be very careful about taking a short. I'd want a real good setup if we were trading this chart. Um, so just trying to give you an idea of where prices may be going. I'm thinking we're probably going to, I don't know where we'll go before they pull back. If they shoot right through this EMA, we may get a reversal pattern and go higher. But the experience tells me with this trend right here, although this is a micro trend on the big picture, so we don't have to retest all this stuff. This is definitely a little congestion area. Even though many times prices will pull back and test it, they don't have to. Actually, prices opened here on this today, traded down and tested that, and then went higher, and that might be good enough. So we'll just have to see. There's not enough clues here. It's just a little early. I think if this was the intraday chart, I'd tell you just sit tight for now. The midline is right in here, so we may turn down off of it and come back and test this breakout. And if that doesn't hold, we'll probably retest these lows. And if that doesn't hold, we may make another leg down. So it's just too early to know yet. But we have finally bounced out of there on a couple of real strong rally days. So we'll see where prices go. Okay, here's today's 2000 tick chart. Clearly all uphill, although we had some sideways action and a couple of corrections here. But for the most part, it's all uphill. And I would probably measure this. I don't have it on there, but let's just get it. One leg up because you got a little two-legged correction there. And so second leg up. So that would have been my target. We didn't quite get there. We came real close. Actually, this is, let's get the, yeah, that's in the right spot. This may be a little lower here. But we didn't quite get a measured move. So there's still 30. No, it's after 4 o'clock. Okay, the market's closed. I was thinking it was just after 3, but it's 4:30, not 3:30. So I'm a little later getting this done. I like to try to do this around 3 every day, between 3 and 3:30. But I was so far behind that still trying to catch up that I'm not getting these done till late in the evening. A little earlier today than I have been, but I just made it a point to get this thing done first. So not a lot of trades today, and you can see the overnight. The volume is down, and the volatility is still up there, but it's nothing like it was. So maybe we're gonna Maybe we'll get back to normal and the market will start trending higher. We'll just have to see. I mean, as day traders, we really don't care which way it goes. Um, we just want it to move, and it moved today nicely. So there's some opportunities today. However, I generally like for the market to go up, and the reason being is because I have other investments and retirements and retirement account and things like that. And when the market's tanking, those things take a hit. So uh, with me getting closer and closer to retirement, I don't like to see my investments take a hit. So anyway, um, let's get to the trades. But it's all uphill. You can clearly see. Let me just go over this real quickly. There's the two-tiered kind of lighter green color, and this is blue in here. We had both of these were actually this one was a spike in channel, the two-tiered blue one. And then that's inside the bigger two-tiered green one, which is just a trend line off the low two swings. We didn't really get it confirmed here. We just shot right through, came back, and then you can see it's valid because it held there again and then went higher. And you can clearly see it working both sides of the EMA or the midline all the way down through there. So I believe it's valid. But when we couldn't get back up here, it was a clue that we were probably going to get a break when we came back to it or soon thereafter. And we just shot right through. Notice how we came back and tested it underneath, then shot back through it and tested it on top. And that shows you that it's valid. It's acting as support and resistance both. So anyway, let's back out a little bit or actually zoom in here and talk about the trades. And I would have measured these two legs as well. There's leg one, and then leg two started from right here. And you can see we made a perfect measured move before we corrected. Went a little higher, went sideways, came back, and then we took off again. So that was two perfect measured legs up there for the most part. So that would have given you a nice target by measuring this first move after you can clearly see the two-legged correction, and there's a two-legged correction within the two-legged correction. Remember, the market moves in twos, so that's important, and you'll see that over and over. But anyway, we bottomed out here around a little before, somewhere between 6 and 6:30, and we bounced, and we're just kind of working higher here. But notice that you got a first entry, second entry, and that bar, and that does confirm the trend line, and that on this yellow channel here and the yellow trend line, that's a fairly bullish bar. It's not perfect. So another way to look at it is you got a new low and you get a first entry, second entry. So there's a failed second entry short with a higher low. So there's a higher low there that confirms the trend line, plus it's a second entry long. If prices would have been above the EMA, I would have liked it better, but you can clearly see the shorts were expecting another leg down and it trapped them. And that's what happens when you don't take a good short. There's a good second entry short right here, but that was too early for us. So that's what happens when you take bad trades. You get trapped, and you can tell it trapped people. But another thing to think not to think, but to see here, to be aware of, is this overshoot. Look, we're clearly in this channel. It's obvious. And then we get this overshoot. So a lot of times that will lead to a reversal. This is during the overnight hours before the 8:30 regular session, but sometimes you'll get a break or an overshoot and they don't follow through as well. But by 6 o'clock in the morning, this is probably going to trade pretty much like regular trading, and that's what it does. You get the overshoot, and then we go higher. And you can see that they trapped the shorts, and the people that were in had to exit. Look how that rockets up. Good sign. And of course, it rockets on up, and we're just going sideways. There is a second entry right here. If you've got room to get out, you might take this trade. I didn't mark it because you can clearly see the congestion. There's not much room to the highs there. If you took it, as long as you got in with plenty of room to get to that high, you're probably okay. And then we just kind of chop back and forth. I don't see anything. As we get a failed breakout here, I would have liked to seen a higher or low to give you a chance to ride that back. The odds are we're coming back, but this just looks like one leg down to me right here. So I don't see any reason to go long yet. You might have looked at this as a higher low, but it didn't break lower. But it's right into the EMA. Right, there's not much room back to the resistance or the support that could act as resistance now. So I don't like entering there. But it does. It continues on up, and then you come back and get a first entry. You turn down again and turn back up. And when it comes back up here, when it breaks above here, it's a second entry. I'd probably trade this on the engulfing bar, so one tick above this red bar. If you went long above this bar, I wouldn't. I'm okay with it too, but it's getting more in the green by waiting that late. What you might do is let it break higher and drop a limit order back, but I don't know if you'd got filled or not. So, but we get a break of this blue channel here, two-legged correction, then we make a new high, and then we just start working sideways. And again, I don't see any good shorts or good longs there. That one's tempting, but it's just so congested. And you can see we just turned off the lows there, and then we can't break back above that midline. So you got to be real careful with that one. Plus, we just came off the midline of the bigger channel, and you wouldn't really have this blue channel in here yet. So. But I like that one for a long because it's a reversal. Notice the new low, first entry, second entry, and you can get that trend line off those first three bars, and with it bouncing right there, that's a pretty good sign that we're probably going higher. And then of course we get the break up here. There's clues that we're going to get a break because look how we couldn't get back to the upper side here. And you get a first entry, second entry, and a lot of times you got to be careful on this midline, but the fact that we weren't to the highs yet, and we needed to make a new high anyway, there's a good chance we're going on to test these highs. So I like a second entry off the midline in that case. And this is pretty much kind of sideways action here. So you could look at that as a failed break lower as well. And of course the trend's up, so you're better off looking for longs. And of course that failure to the downside is also a second entry long. I mark this green because you normally want this to set up off the key entry point, or at least have bounced off that a few times, and we don't have that information yet. But there's maybe enough to trade this with just the sideways stuff as well. So just make sure you got room to get out before these highs. We run up, make the new high, and then we just start working sideways. We bounce off the midline again, no setup there this time, and of course we run up, and now the green channel comes into play. And we can't get back up to the blue one that's up here. And this thing just trends straight down, back down to the trend line, and we go higher, then you get a higher low, then you get a reversal here. I really thought this would follow through. It didn't, but it's still an easy scalp. And that's all we're looking for, just to get that scalp. And if we get a runner, that's just extra gravy, a little bonus. So it doesn't go very far, and then we get a break of the trend line. We try to make a second leg down, and then it bounces. I don't think you want to go long here yet. We are a little ways away from the EMA, and you do have a break and two legs down to a new low. You know, you could argue for that to be green. Maybe you take that on a second entry long. Notice the new high. Technically, it's not a second entry because we broke higher once and then twice, but that looks like one leg down and then the second leg down. So on a bigger picture, I'd look at that as a second entry. And notice all that support and a little failed break lower. We run up, pull back, only get a first entry. And we make another new high there. So we do get the break, and I wouldn't necessarily, that doesn't look like two legs up. Looks like really you get the break and another move up. And then we're trending down. And again, I don't see any shorts I like here. It's just too much sideways and dojis and overlapping bars and so forth. So, but what we do bounce down here where we've been bouncing, runs right through the EMA, pulls back. You get a first entry short, then you get a second entry short, and when it breaks higher right there, it's also a second entry long. So it's a failed second entry short and a second entry long. You couldn't take it on the second entry long alone because of the signal bar is not very good. You can see that signal bar. But if it breaks higher there, we're probably going higher. It comes back here and confirms the trend line. The only problem is you got to go long right into that resistance right there. There's not a line on there, but if I put one on there, you can see that, and you're having to go long right into that. Doesn't matter in the end, but I just didn't really like that. I think you needed to be in down here. It turns out to be a great trade, but that's neither here nor there because it wasn't a good setup, and it doesn't matter how it turns out. You don't want to let a trade that only looks average get to you when you don't take it, because, or even a good trade, if a big move like that, don't let that bother you if you didn't take it, if there wasn't a setup, because you did the right thing. So people lose sight of that sometimes. But anyway, we make a double top here. We get a close outside, then you get two legs down. I would have called that a second entry, but the signal bar is no good. And you're really just kind of working sideways here again. I didn't put it on here, but I'll show you here. You clearly got a little trading range there. Failure at the top, followed by a failure at the bottom, and then we come back and test the lows and go higher. I don't see a long I like here, and I don't see a short I like. The overall trend, remember, is still up. So we run up here, we get a close outside, make a first entry, and then a second entry long. Technically, you could say there was a second entry long there. I don't really think you want to play the second entry here either, even if you counted that one, because it's just so congested. But notice you made a low, you test it once, you come back and test it twice, and you get this bar with plenty of room to get out, even to the midline. That's why I like that trade. And of course, we run up, we turn down. Again, I don't see a reason to go short. There is a second entry, but the trend is up, so just wait and see what we get. And then, of course, prices drop back down. You get a first entry, and it looks like it's going lower and bounces, and you get a second entry. Look at that big bullish bar. Let's go long there. There's a higher low here, and there is room to get out. I don't know if I'd have taken it. I don't think it matters because it gaps over and keeps going. I don't know if you could have got in that. You could have got a limit order, but generally when people use limit orders, they try to get a little better entry, and if you do that there, you're going to miss the trade. And notice I did mark this one. Look how good that signal bar is, and you made a test once, twice, three times. And there's a little bit of room. It actually breaks higher and turns down. I probably would have traded that. I don't know if actually, because of that gap, I probably would not trade that as a engulfing bar. I'd wait for it to close, and then you might go short below that. It's a little aggressive, but I marked it just so I'd talk about it. And after the failed break lower, we actually break out the top. And remember, the trend is up. You try to go higher once, try to go higher twice. Nice signal bar. It's a little sideways there, but in this uptrend, bouncing right off the midline again, and pretty much that's off the EMA too. I like going long there. It doesn't go very high, and then it's really what you had was a little sideways stuff, and you get a little measured move up based on the width of this. And there's another triple test there. I didn't mark this one, but it's very close to this last one. So you might, you know, I might mark it green, but it's probably all I'd give it. And we actually break out here and come back. It looks like we're going to bounce at the trend line, but it goes on through. And I don't see any trades down through there on that one, but we do get a first entry here and then a second entry here. But this is an engulfing bar. And if you took that trade, you would have to put your stop down here. And so I'd say wait. And you actually do get a higher low and a second entry long there. But the signal bar is average, and you actually have to use this inside bar, and it's right at 230. So I didn't mark anything else, really. This was our last trade. But you can clearly see the blue channel working down. You get a break, new low. You're working up here. On the yellow, you get a break, move to a new high, then you corrected before going on higher. And there's the big picture of it again. Fairly decent trading day. Things seemed a little more normal today. So maybe this trading, maybe the selling is subsiding. We'll see. But I'd really like to see us get back to some more normal price action without all the crazy volatility. Although sometimes those days are great, but you can get tripped up with those if you're not careful. So just be real careful with them. But anyway, that's going to do it. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.